Hello, friends. Hola, soy Maria Baños Jordan. Hello, I'm Maria Baños Jordan, the president and founder of the Texas Familias Council. And we are very blessed today to have a wonderful woman and friend, Barbara Benjamin-Treviño, who I've known for several years. And thankfully, we've had a chance now to catch up via this wonderful format, this platform of Zoom, to talk a little bit about what we've been going through as a community, and our interest, our shared interest and passion for our young people, and really growing our communities. So I invited Barbara to come and talk about voting in particular, because this is such an important piece that our council has been watching and studying for several years, and the impact of people having a personal investment in growing their community and a voice and making sure our voices are heard. And Barbara, several years ago, developed this amazing tool that it's called Be a Voter. And Be a Voter really helps us understand what we believe is important to ourselves and our community and how to put our voice into action. And so, Barbara, thank you so much for joining me today. And I really am so grateful that you made the time to talk to us.
Well, thanks for having me. This is actually my favorite subject, other than my husband and my son. and there are a lot of good things to encourage people with, because there is hope, and it all lies with the young people.
Absolutely.
I'm originally from Philadelphia, in case you can't tell by my accent. Y también yo soy una gringuita que habla español. So just in case you wanted to say anything behind my back, I never knew it would come in so handy as when I met my in-laws. But by then I had a pretty good grounding. So I moved to Texas in the early 1980s from Philadelphia and from Boston, where I resided. And I studied education like many other women of my generation, foreign language education in particular, Spanish and French. That's what interested me, and that's what I studied. And back in the day, the choices were, so you want to be a teacher or a nurse? And I did not want to be a nurse, number one. But I found that language, culture, travel, and curiosity, just getting to know people in the environment that created them, was very helpful to not just educational studies, but across the board, even now, and very much so while creating Be a Voter. So that's my background. And Be a Voter was created in my mind to fill a need, a gap. In education language, we talk about closing the gap between the educational attainment of the white population and of the Latino and African American populations. So I use that language both for voting and for this. Be a Voter is a mini bite-sized civics program to help increase youth voting, period. Punto. That's what it is. Its sole purpose is to increase the voter turnout, not registration, the voter turnout of young people. And they're referred to, even though they're more adults, 18 to 29 years old, as youth voting. That's what the research says, and we'll talk about that in a moment. My short-term goal was to increase turnout in the elections coming up. And my long-term goal was to cultivate a new generation of voters, of informed voters, which is a kind of lofty thing that people might say, well, that's, oh, you want to change the world. Yeah, I used to, but now I'm happy to just make a dent in the youth voter turnout in where I'm from, Williamson County in Texas, but Texas as a state, and nationally to the extent that I communicate with people much farther afield than Texas. So bite-sized civics, it's like handing somebody a bottle of water when they're thirsty, rather than telling them to go build a well, and then one day they'll have water.
Wonderful. That really does perfectly explain the essence of this effort that you've created, because it really just simplifies it and makes it, it's not intimidating or threatening in any way, very accessible. You mentioned, the a little bit about why Be a Voter came into your being, but what were some of the signs that you felt you were seeing with either with young people or in society that really prompted you to take that action and actually create this Be a Voter tool?
Well, there were several things, Maria. First of all, I come from a family and a community that always voted. I went to the DMV when I was 16 to get my license, and then I voted. My parents voted. We knew to vote. We didn't necessarily talk about each issue in depth, but it was just something you did, like make your bed, eat breakfast, whatever. But when I moved to Texas, especially, and I started working for Houston ISD in the migrant education program, I learned very quickly that not everybody had the same opportunities that I did, and that there might not be a history of voting. Fast forward many years, different professional settings, different states, and I came to learn that there's a statistic that sticks in my mind when I looked some years ago that in Texas, the state of Texas ranked 47th in voter registration among all 50 states.
Wow.
Ay caramba, which I learned in 7th grade. That's just astounding. And so I thought, why don't young people vote, or young people in certain communities? But you search and you search, and I do a lot of reading, and I did a lot of research, even though I knew intuitively, and the research confirmed it. People don't vote for a lot of reasons. They don't feel connected to their community. There are barriers. They don't have transportation. They're working several jobs at a time. They don't really understand how it all comes together and what it is and how to do it, and they're intimidated to ask. So you mentioned intimidation earlier, and that's that's one of the main reasons I wanted to help demystify this, so that young people, before people are hounding them about vote this way, vote that way, what do you think of this legislation, they don't even know what you're talking about. They don't know what they don't know. And so they literally run away, or they don't approach a voter registration table, or they just put their earbuds in and don't want to deal with it, because where do you even start? If you can imagine a pot of wet spaghetti, there's no untangling wet spaghetti. So you don't want it to be wet to start with. And if it is, could be a stranger, could be a friend, helping take apart the key components, making them bite-sized, helps a lot. So it gives them, it decreases the intimidation, and it increases confidence in that, yeah, they can do it. It's not that hard. Here is a cheat sheet. Here is a voting action plan. It lists everything that you will need to know to vote. But the component that I included, that most other people, places, individuals hadn't included in this certain way, was I included first what each individual's priorities or goals are, what their values are, because young people in older generations as well, but especially young people, are trying to find their way in the world. And they know how they feel or react sometimes, but they also don't know how to react or how that ties back to what we call a value or a priority. So that's the starting point, and that should be the starting point really for everything. Number one. Number two is I also give them all the details. Here are the websites to go to. Find your polling place. Make sure you have transportation. Take a snack with you. I don't go anywhere without snacks and water. You might need to take a friend with you. This is also an opportunity to broaden your community, go with your friends, meet other people there, because it's really the epitome of a civic effort. So what I did was I put in a values clarification component, a decision-making chart. You don't have to invent the wheel. You can check off one or two or three of the very common goals that young people have, or you can add your own. And that makes it easier initially because it helps focus them. Now they can research the candidates, they can research legislation, they can literally match it up. So I should say that it's a decision-making rubric. Here, in my purposes, it's for voting, voter education, but young people can use it for anything. Who they want to go out with Saturday night, what to major in college, where to move to get a job, if they really want to hang out with certain family members or not. You always start from inside and understand yourself better, and then you can narrow it, and the rest becomes plenty easy.
I just think it's wonderful because I think it really, and not just for young people, because I think a lot of what we're seeing in today's society and our culture, the divisiveness, the talking over one another, just immediately assuming someone is insulting us without really taking the time to listen. But ultimately, it boils down to us really listening to ourselves and understanding who we are and why we think the way we do, right? Why we, one issue is so important to us, or one point of view is so important to us. And then, what is it about a community that, we would like to see different, or we would like to, in some way impact or change. And so I think that this tool, just simplifying it and getting, like you said, for people to look inside and to kind of understand that first, so that they don't feel disempowered when they're making the act, of voting, is this wonderful place to begin.
Yes, thank you. I should also mention that I am not an organization. I'm not a business. I'm not a group. I'm a free-range chicken is what I am. I wanted to do something to improve the situation, and I came up with something that was manageable for me, and that I had the professional background and experience to be able to organize without getting some specialized degree in technology or something. So this is just me. This is my contribution to help close the gap between voter registration and voter education. So the first thing I did was I put together a voter reference card, and you can see that it's a business-sized card, 2 sides, and everything I made up. I made it, I write everything, I imagine everything, I organize it, I develop it, I write it, and I use a template to, for the printing, and I've paid for everything. So I also put it in the public domain, open source. I don't trademark or patent anything. This is all free to all of you, to everyone, just for the asking. So I hope that you will see some of the resources and want to use them. So I put together this card, and here's an example of what one person can do that takes no time at all and helps a lot. over a period of time. I put these in my car. When I go to H-E-B or whatever supermarket, I always say, as I'm paying, because I'm a customer, oh, are you registered to vote yet? Or you're registered to vote already, aren't you? If they say no, I say, awesome. Here's a card with a website. Go to that, tell all your friends, ask them to be sure to register and post it on your social media. If they say, oh yes, I'm registered, I say, awesome. You see, be a voter ambassador, tell your friends, post it on social media. We need more young people to vote. I keep these in my car. I keep them by my front door. I keep them in my purse. I keep them everywhere. If and when I have an opportunity, I'm not just barreling into people I don't know, although sometimes I'll do that. I don't expect anybody else to do that. But a kind word as somebody's handing you the groceries that you just paid for, or a delivery person or a service person who comes to your home, they're not expecting it. They often say, no. Sometimes young people don't know. Say, do you register to vote? That means they're not. And sometimes, especially when I'm at the college campuses, you register to vote? I register every year. They mean classes. So you have to take everybody where they are.
Sure.
But I keep these, and by the way, I will happily send you a box or boxes, Maya, for you to use. This has been the entry to a lot of conversations. I focus primarily on community colleges in my area and even in other states, because that's where you get the young target population who don't yet have the words to articulate, in some cases, what they want, what's upsetting them, what they want to be able to understand without asking. You can go to universities, you can go to public, state universities, private universities. Not everybody is registered, and even those who are registered don't necessarily vote. So everything is completely nonpartisan. It's nonprofit. It's research-based. I didn't just make it up. I made it up based on the research that shows how many fewer young people vote than the 65 and over population, for example. So this is a way to give access and literally open a door for young people. I do say kids nowadays, that I'm not in that population anymore, to be able to get a glimpse, a hook, something to hang on to help kick open the door, because they just don't know. They don't know what to ask. So what I do is I attach myself to occasional voter registration drives run by groups of terrific voter registrars in every county. And I do my free range chicken thing. And I say to them when they come up or when they look puzzled, I say, what keeps you up at night? They have an answer for that.
Yes.
It could be, I don't know how I'm going to be able to graduate because I didn't get my student financial aid this semester, and I don't know what to do about it. Or healthcare. I'm in school, but I have a 2-year-old and I need to have healthcare, and I don't even know where to start. And if you see that the 3 top things on here are student financial aid, healthcare, and a job with security, not a fly-by-night job. You can think back to when you were 16, 17, 18, in your 20s, or maybe even beyond. It was hard to figure out each of these things individually sometimes, harder even still with all the other things you have to do. So the second I say, what keeps you up at night, or what concerns you the most, and they answer, shh, then I take a really short time to explain to them very briefly how a system works. Take student financial aid. Well, I don't know. I said, do you know how the financial aid system works? No. Okay, why should they? I know, and it's so complicated that better you don't know. So I give them a very brief couple of sentences explanation. Here's how it works. Here are the access points. And they're like, and I say, but understand that states in this country slash their budgets for education and higher education in particular drastically over the last generation. They shifted the burden of payment from the government subsidizing you to the family. And that's why college is so expensive. You need financial aid and so on and so forth. So I usually get a reaction like,
Right.
how would you know? How would anybody know that? Same
Right.
thing about healthcare or jobs. I can talk about all of those things, but even if I couldn't give such a specific explanation. And then I say, so if your biggest concern is X, you want to vote for candidates who will help you reach your goal, who will support your priorities. That makes perfect sense to even young people. And I say, here's a card, and I'll show you the big bad meme voting action plan. 2 sides of 1 page, no color, so that other people can print it out. And the very first thing is identify your goals, okay? And if they did nothing else that day, students feel better. Research the issues, match your issues to goals, make a decision. Page 1 is really the crux of it. Page 2 is find your polling place. Here is nonpartisan information to research legislation, so on and so forth. This is available by print. This is available electronically. It's on the website Beavoter.info. To the extent that you have any desire to contribute to improved voter turnout for youth, all you have to do is post this on your social media or make copies, give it out, and share it electronically with others, individuals, organizations, the kids in the local youth group, the kids at the supermarket. Nobody, it's like when you're having a bad day and somebody walks by and says a nice word to you, and you immediately, your blood pressure goes down. That's what this is like. Oh, I have a place to go and look. I had so much information available, but I didn't even know how to approach it. So that's the rationale, the raison d'etre, the missing nugget, and the little puzzle piece that helps close the gap. Now they know where to start or where to buy what they wanted to buy, even though there's no buying going on here. It's like a breath of fresh air, start here. And it's been working very well in communities across the country, but especially in Williamson County, Texas, where I reside. And we'll talk more about